evening, creatures, and welcome to the Graveyard Shift Horror Podcast, where we talk about horror films and TV shows, both past and present. I'm your host, Morticia.
And I'm Brandon Beller.
And we are now on week number 3 of our annual 31 Days of Halloween challenge, so let's go ahead and dive in, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
I'm really excited, but I'm kind of sad it's going to be coming to an end soon.
One more week. Well, plus some change, because there'll be, those 2 extra days that aren't part of week 4. Or maybe we just add those on to week 4 as well. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
One long week.
And a 9-day week.
It's perfectly fine. But, 7 more days until Halloween. I'm really excited about this.
Yes.
You had to look.
I had to make sure what the date was.
You had to make sure?
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, always teasing him.
Yes, so we are in the last week.
Yeah. So it makes sense. Day 1 of week 3, we had Halloween, and just in case, you're kind of confused with the next one, we kind of, moved the dates up a little bit so it can coincide with Halloween.
Yeah, we kind of mixed and matched. We didn't go in complete chronological order this week because we attached 2 originals and then subsequent sequels together. This and then later on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and we have Halloween 1978, and it's an American slasher film. Wow. Slasher film directed by John Carpenter and music scored by John Carpenter as well. It was co-written with producer Deborah Hill and Jamie Lee Curtis's first film debut. Mm-hmm. And she's probably one of my favorite actresses in horror today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we're gonna we'll definitely go to see it at some point. Maybe on Halloween.
New Halloween.
Yeah.
That would actually be the perfect time to go see that,
yes.
in my opinion.
Yes.
It just fits.
Mm-hmm.
But this is actually one of the very first horror films that ever actually got me into horror besides Scream. Mm-hmm. And, I watched it over and over as a kid. It basically, slasher film. Your prototypical slasher film.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, Psycho was what you would consider the original slasher film, but this was the one that really got everything going, got everything taking off. Because after this, a lot of the ones that came afterwards, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, all of that, drew a lot of inspiration and probably wouldn't have been created without Halloween.
That is true. And Michael Myers, or The Shape, as what was his original name, he never really terrified me as a kid, but I always I was always interested in the Michael Myers story and what it had to do with Samhain and stuff like that.
Well, they didn't bring that in until the second one, but that was definitely something that really brought more of that Halloween feel into it.
Yeah, and basically John Carpenter, when he thought of it, he was like, wow, this is a really good idea. Nobody's ever made a horror movie based around Halloween.
Well, a few interesting things about Halloween when it comes to how it was originally created. For one, the idea of it being called Halloween was actually by the distributor, not from John Carpenter.
Yeah, and he was like, wow, that's a great idea.
And then when it was originally about to be released, when it was shown to, other filmmakers and shown to distributors and whatnot, it didn't have a score, and people didn't like it at first. But then after Carpenter created the music for it, it really brought it all together.
It really added, the eeriness to it.
And then one thing that's really weird, and I still would love to find an original and see how it looked originally, Like that iconic Michael Myers mask was originally a Captain Kirk mask.
Yep, a
Just
really,
weird.
really bad Captain
Yes.
Kirk mask. That's what he said, and basically, they spray painted it and distorted it a little bit because in the script, John Carpenter said he was wearing a face.
Yeah.
The killer, he didn't have like an exact look about him. He just he wore a face.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Halloween. It is the beginning of the big slashers. So
yeah, and I would have to rate it a 5 because it was one of my first horror films.
Oh,
and
definitely.
You know what?
I mean,
it's Halloween. It's iconic.
Yes, exactly.
It's very iconic. But we're not done talking about Halloween
Nope.
just yet because we have Halloween 2, 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And it was directed by Rick Rosenthal, which was his very first directorial debut, and it was written and produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. Although John Carpenter didn't really want a sequel to Halloween,
Yeah.
I think that's what he said in an interview.
Yeah. Which would have been interesting because both of the films that he was directly, related to and directly directed and everything, both ended kind of on an unknown. Because the original Halloween, he escapes, and Halloween 3, which we'll talk about later, you don't know what happened at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And, in fact, Carpenter, he was reluctant to extend his involvement, and he refused to direct.
Mm.
But he still did the music score and everything, I'm sure, because it sounds exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's honestly, I love Halloween 2. It's actually my favorite Halloween in the series.
Mm.
I like the hospital aspect of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
really creepy.
Oh, yeah.
It's really creepy. Some of the, the sound effects, the music in general is just creepy.
Oh, yeah.
As he's walking down the hall.
And you get, like we talked about before, you get a lot more of the, the Samhain symbolism in it and all of that.
And how he's basically is the, the evil spirit of Halloween. And that, they explain that actually more in Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which isn't exactly everybody's favorite, but I love it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I have an appreciation for all Halloween films.
Mm-hmm.
But, what would your favorite part in Halloween 2 be? Your favorite kill.
My favorite kill?
And then your favorite part. I kind of mixed the two.
My favorite kill, I think, has to be at the end with the explosion and everything. Even though it's not technically a kill, but,
Yeah, it's not technically a kill. And, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, I think Loomis is dead. And then I watched Halloween 4, and I was like, he survived that, and only half of his body was burned.
The other one that I liked, is this in the first one? Or no, I think this is in the second one, where he stabs him and puts him up on the wall, and he kind of tilts his head.
That's the first one.
Oh, is that?
That's the first one.
Okay.
You're getting confused.
They get mixed together.
No, well, yeah. Anyway, my favorite part in Halloween 2 would have to be when Laurie shoots him in the eyes and blood come out of the eye holes like he's crying blood.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to go after her, and just that part where it's just streaming down his face.
For those of you who are not familiar, that's also a trope that they use a lot in Greek tragedies. So he brought that aspect into it as well.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love it. I would have to give Halloween 2 a 5-star
Oh,
rating.
yeah, definitely.
Because, it takes place right after, right where the first one leaves off.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, like I said, the hospital aspect. Laurie's in the hospital, and Michael Myers, he has unfinished business, so he goes to the hospital and he, basically kills all the nurses, terrorizes her.
Mm-hmm.
Till the very end.
Yep.
But yeah.
Oh, it's another. It's another one of my favorite moments in it.
Oh, what's that?
It is that one ambulance dude, that song that he does.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought about that. And if you're familiar with Halloween 2,
you know exactly what we're talking about.
It's near the beginning, like not right
it's
when
like
it starts.
kind of in the middle,
it's
I
like
guess.
Right in the middle.
Say. Yeah.
But it's
because it's right when she gets to the hospital.
They're sitting in the break room watching Night of the Living Dead, and the one nurse, I guess, that dies in the hot tub, walks in and, talks to him, like, he has a big crush on her. Mm-hmm. She walks out and he starts singing this hilarious song, and it's his favorite, it's Brandon's favorite part of the whole thing, and he actually sings it pretty well.
It's funny.
Yeah, but, so do you like it better than the first one, or? We talked about that song for a good 5 minutes, probably. I know. But, it's fine.
It's kind of different. Like, Halloween is, more of your prototypical horror movie, whereas Halloween 2 does have a lot more comedy in it.
It has a little more comedy. It's like a dry humor, I would say. But yeah, yeah, you got me thinking about that song. Oh my god. But we're on day 2 now.
Yep.
The Shining, 1980. We're going back to 1980. Mm-hmm. It was produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick, co-written with novelist Diane Johnson, and Harrison Ford and Robin Williams actually were considered for the role of Jack Torrance, just to start off the conversation, because I thought that was really interesting.
It is interesting, but, I mean, I could only imagine how that movie would be different if it was them instead of Jack Nicholson.
I had, like, a picture in my mind of Harrison Ford, that one part in it where I know he's like, Wendy, darling, light of my life.
I'm also thinking of another moment that we probably shouldn't say on this podcast, and you can imagine how Harrison Ford would be like in it.
Okay, then. Yeah. Yeah, no, now that's all I can think about.
Just imagine Han Solo saying that.
No. Okay, no, and I think Jack Nicholson's perfect anyway.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, I mean...
It's hilarious, though, to think about.
Was this before... Did this come out first, or did Batman come out first?
This came out first.
I wonder if, like, they saw his performance in this and was like, oh, he seems like he would be a perfect Joker.
He would be the perfect... Like, he was the perfect Joker.
I know. No, I know that, but because this came out first, I wonder if this
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He definitely ended up being the perfect Joker. Mm-hmm. But, I liked it a lot. I read the book and everything, and I really, really loved the book. It wasn't, like, exactly like the book, but that's okay. I mean, I didn't like the miniseries, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't see it.
I haven't seen it, but yeah. And it's just weird.
No, nobody else could play that part better than Jack Nicholson. No. And, as we saw already, the kid that played Danny Torrance in, the TV miniseries, he just wasn't as good as the kid who played him in Stanley Kubrick's version. Yeah. So I would have to rate it a 5.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
even the ghosts were scary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, The Shining is one of those movies that, yeah, it's scary to an extent, but at the same time, you're just laughing half the time.
There's some really funny parts in The Shining, though. Like, Jack Torrance, like he's...
Him sitting there drinking, like, empty shot glasses.
Like, just fake booze. He's just gone completely insane.
Yep.
And you really don't know if he's a reincarnation of the...
Yeah, they leave that up in the air at the end.
It's a weird ending, and there's a video I've actually been meaning to watch on YouTube that explains the ending a little bit, but I haven't really gotten around to it yet. But, like, either way, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
I love anything Stephen King.
And
I know he wasn't a fan of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, but, I have to respect the creator,
Oh,
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Next we have Friday the 13th, 1980. Which, is, like, one of my all-time favorite slasher films, besides Halloween. And, it was produced by and directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and it was written by Victor Miller. Adrienne King played Alice, Betsy Palmer played Mrs. Voorhees, and, it was Kevin Bacon's... He was in it, too, when he was younger. I'm not sure if it was his first film or not.
I'm not sure either, yeah.
I was shocked when I first saw it, and I was like, my brother was like, hey, look, there's a young Kevin Bacon.
It's the beginning of the 6 degrees.
The six degrees of Kevin Bacon. My sister, I'll give a shout out to her, my sister Kelly, she's really good at that game. She's, like, no joke, she's awesome at that game. Like, I'm not very good at it, but she is.
I'm not either.
Because, like, she's, like I see, I watch mostly horror films and everything. But, yeah, this one does not have Jason in it. Well,
technically at the end.
Has him at the very end, spoiler alert, sorry. A little late on the spoiler alert there, but, if you haven't seen this film already, I don't know.
Yeah. You need to go watch it now.
It's awesome. And, I hated the remake.
Oh, of course.
Like, a lot of people like it, and I respect that, but I didn't like it. It's too much change. And
Isn't Mrs. Voorhees only in, like, the very beginning?
Like, when I watch it, I remember, like, vaguely, like, her during the beginning credits and everything, and it was just, like... They tried to mesh, like... I felt like they tried to mesh, like, a bunch of...
Didn't you say they basically tried to mesh 1, 2, and 3 all into one?
That's what
because he was Sackhead for a little while.
That's what I saw, and that's what it felt like to me. I don't know if I imagined that or not, because... I don't know. But, yeah, that's what I saw. And that's how I felt, and... No. But, this one, 5 out of 5.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of our choices are probably...
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because we're watching the good movies.
Best out of the best.
Yes.
We try to choose for 31 Days of Halloween.
Yes.
And it's always fun choosing them.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not done talking about Friday the 13th yet.
Nope.
We're on to part 2 now, which came out in 1981. And it was produced and directed by Steve Miner, which was his directorial debut. And it picks up 5 years after the first one. But it doesn't actually take place at Camp Crystal Lake. It takes place at, like, a training camp for camp counselors. Right next door to Camp Crystal Lake. In fact, Camp Crystal Lake, I believe, is abandoned.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember correctly, they're even, like, forbidden from going over there. And that's kind of what brings Jason out, is a couple of them do go over there.
And he starts stalking that campsite. And, I have to say, I love Sackhead Jason. That mask, it's my favorite Jason look. I don't know. He just looks scary.
I know. He does. I still love the hockey mask.
That's because you're a hockey fan.
Yes, of course.
But that's okay. I actually have an action figure of Sackhead Jason.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I got it at, like, a comic convention, and it looks just like him. What would your favorite Jason look have to be now that we're on the subject? Like, ever? Is he I know he had, the hockey mask, but it always had a different
It always
look
had a
to
different...
it.
I'd probably say, overall, probably Friday 3. When it actually just looks like a regular hockey mask. Because after a while, it kind of gets deformed.
And I believe at the end of part 3 is when it gets the slit in the middle, and it, gets even worse in part 4. I could be wrong. I could be mixing
No,
it
you're
up.
right. You're right.
But, that would have to...
Because I remember in part 4 he does have the slit in it.
With the slit in it, my second favorite Jason look. But
And then I also I know a lot of people hate it, but I like Uber Jason.
I like Uber Jason. Who doesn't like Uber Jason? That's kind of fucked up.
We'll talk about that at the end of the 31 days.
That's true. That is true. Spoiler alert, that's our last film. Now we're on to day 4. American Werewolf in London, 1981.
This is a weird one.
Yeah, it was written and directed by horror film director John Landis and stars David Naughton, Jenny Agutter, and Griffin Dunn. And it's about 2 American students, David and Jack, who are attacked by a werewolf while backpacking in England.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them gets killed, the other one gets bit and maimed just a little bit and turned into a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the whole duration of the film, his friend who got killed is basically haunting him, saying he will never be put to rest unless he kills himself because, he's basically walking amongst the earth as like a ghost that has unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine what happened to him is still probably pretty painful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at him. He starts to rot throughout. You notice that?
Yeah.
Each time he sees him, he starts to rot. It's a weird movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a really scary concept because, you're bit by a werewolf, but if you kill somebody, you're going to be haunted by their spirit for the rest of your life until, your curse is over, and the only way your curse will be over is for you to die.
Yep.
Which, sucks for a werewolf. I'd rather be a vampire.
Yes, of course.
But I really liked it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite werewolf film. Hands down. What would yours have to be?
I think I'd probably have to go with The Wolfman.
The Wolfman. That is second favorite. No, actually, that is first favorite. American Werewolf in London. That's my second.
I could see that.
But, because The Wolfman's a start. Mm-hmm. I think there's another.
I think that is the first werewolf movie, but I could be wrong.
We'll have to look that up later. What would you have to rate American Werewolf in London?
I'll give it a 5.
I would have to give it a 5 out of 5 too. And shout out to John Landis. He's awesome.
Oh yes.
He's a really good filmmaker. Hands down, ever since I saw American Werewolf in London, and it was my favorite werewolf movie, hands down.
Mm-hmm. But
now we're on to Evil Dead 1981. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of 80s films this week. It was
this was the 80s week, yeah.
Well, I don't mind that. I love 80s horror.
I think we're still into the 80s for the majority of next week as well.
We are, for sure. Yeah, because we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in there.
Yep.
And Evil Dead, it was written and directed by Sam Raimi, and he is one of my all-time favorite horror directors besides Adam Green. And it was executive produced by Raimi and Bruce Campbell, which you gotta appreciate. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But did you know that, I think I told you this earlier, but I'll go ahead and tell the listeners, it was actually originally, they made a short film called Within the Woods, and it was a prototype for the Evil Dead to kind of get funding, and everyone loved it, and I read that Stephen King loved the Evil Dead films.
Mm-hmm. And this plays into a new segment that we have going on. A little trivia for you guys. We're gonna
Terror
trivia. There we go.
Forgot. That's okay.
So terror trivia time, people. What horror novelist helped Evil Dead acquire a distributor? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. Although you kind of mentioned it already.
Yeah, I did. I screwed that up, didn't I?
Yeah,
I didn't read the question.
I didn't read the answer, so I didn't realize.
I didn't read the question or the answer.
So
just kind of.
Fair enough.
That's okay. But it's not surprising.
No, not at all.
We're on to day 5 now. Well, first let's rate Evil Dead.
Gotta give it a 5.
Well, I gotta talk about something for a minute with Evil Dead before we go on to day 5. Something I forgot about. You know, when you watch Evil Dead, and you know we have Evil Dead 2 the next week, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say something. Why does he go back?
I don't fully understand that. I think it's one of those things where, like, on a on a film level, they wanted to make a more comedic version of it.
I know that's the reason,
but like in an in-universe level, I don't understand why he would go back again after what happened.
Because I watched every episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead and everything, and both all 3 films exist in the in-universe, and it's like, okay, this is the place where you murdered your friends and your sister and your girlfriend. You bring another girl that's also named Linda to the cabin.
Ash and his damn obsession with Lindas.
It's actually a really clever inside joke among the films in the show, because he gets back for a very short time with one of his Lindas in Ash vs. Evil Dead. There's another one. But, he goes back, and it's like, he goes through all this shit again.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
why?
But you poor thing. Why would, you poor soul, why would you do this to yourself? But, I love Evil Dead, and I love the second one, and I would have, like I said, I would have to give Evil Dead a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Now we're on day 5. And I'm really excited to talk about this one, Halloween 3, 1982.
Oh, yeah.
It's a science fiction horror film, and it's in the Halloween series, but it's not a Michael Myers film.
Yeah, it's completely separate from all of the other ones. And that's because it was, John Carpenter originally wanted to have Halloween be like an anthology series. But then Michael Myers just became so popular that everyone demanded more Michael Myers, and, the writing was on the wall then.
Yeah, that's what a lot of, I notice that's what a lot of people don't really understand nowadays. Some people do and still don't like it, and, that's okay because everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but those are people who just, judge it and say it sucks without, fully,
understanding why it is what it is.
It really bothers me because, it's like you said, it's supposed to be an anthology series at first. There was originally not going to be any more Michael Myers. And, I thought this was a very original story.
Oh, yeah.
You have, these Halloween masks made by Silver Shamrock, and, each one of them had, they use the power of Stonehenge from the little, fragments and put them within the trademark of the mask, and, it's a way of basically, a sacrifice, pretty much.
Yeah, they're basically, in essence, trying to sacrifice all the kids.
If you really, when it really comes down to it, that is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to sacrifice the kids. And it's because, of their original, Samhain ways, the Celts. And that's just what they did back then, and the planets were in alignment for the first time in years.
3,000 years, I think they said.
Yeah, something like that, and it was time for them to give their earthly sacrifice again, and so that's why they're doing this.
Yep.
It's a really original story.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and a lot of people, I guess, don't understand it, but that's why it's also a science fiction film. You gotta really use your brain when you're watching.
It's definitely one of those that, if you don't understand the history of Halloween and then Samhain prior, you'd be lost. So, it's definitely a very intelligent movie.
It's very educating. Yeah. It's wonderful. I really loved it.
Oh, yes.
I actually have the special edition. Really cool looking cover. I would love to find a t-shirt. No, I actually was thinking about getting a Silver Shamrock mask for Halloween.
Can you actually find them?
Yeah, I would think they would have them online.
With the tag and everything?
That would be cool. The trademark?
Yeah.
That would be cool, but it's like, if you also bought like a Hellraiser puzzle box online, and you would be kind of like creeped out to open it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would like really want to open it at the same time. Would you really want to put the mask on and watch like a clip of the Silver Shamrock song?
Yeah, really.
How would that scare you?
Yes.
Nothing would happen, but like
I don't want any no damn nope ropes coming out of my face.
A plague of snakes, aka nope ropes, and insects come out of your face when you put the mask on and you watch the Silver Shamrock giveaway.
Yeah, no.
I'm good on that.
Nope, I'll pass.
But 5 out of 5 skulls
definitely.
for Halloween 3. I loved every minute of it. It's a film I could never get tired of. And now we have another John Carpenter movie, The Thing, 1982, and we actually watched the original from the 50s, The Thing from Another World, which was actually one of John Carpenter's favorite films.
Yeah, and even put it in Halloween. Yeah, the original.
Tommy Doyle, Lindsay, and Laurie watching it on, I guess, their little Halloween horror marathon they were having.
Yep.
It's a science fiction horror film, directed by John Carpenter and written by Bill Lancaster. It was based on a novella by John W. Campbell Jr. titled Who Goes There? And it's based in the Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
And, which, that would be a scary place to be if something like this happened.
Oh, well, because you're completely isolated.
But, it's completely different than the original. Instead of just there being a monster, it's like a parasite. Yeah, it's some sort of parasite or something that intelligence that can morph into whatever it touches or sees or it's probably or eats or probably sees. Okay. Or something. I forget because I've only seen it a few times, but it basically takes the form of that person or living thing. Any living thing. Because it turns into a dog. And it's terrifying. You remember I was watching, we were watching it and one part came on where they were trying to basically, do CPR on somebody and tried to restart his heart with those, yeah, the defibrillators. Yeah, and, I wasn't expecting this to happen because I haven't seen it in so long, but as he was, pressing down hard on the chest of, somebody, one of the crew members that were unconscious, it went through his, chest and stomach, and then teeth came out and clamped down on the arms. That basically just devoured him. And I jumped back. I was like, whoa! I was not expecting that. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. I love John Carpenter's thing. Yeah. It's terrifying. It's gory, too. Yeah. It's one of the few remakes that, while it changes a lot, it still has the spirit of the original in it, and it's still very good. Very good. And so what would do you think, which one do you think you would like better? I mean, I think I like the original better. But I like the remake as well. I think I would have to like John Carpenter's a little better because, it just, it kept me, freaked out the whole time. It's definitely scarier. It kept me, alert and awake the whole time. Because, each part was just something crazy. And happening. You don't know exactly, because the alien can shapeshift, you don't know where the alien exactly is. That's a very scary concept to think about. And it's not really because of, the gore and the action that I like it better. It's because of the scare factor. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you don't know what's going to happen next. And you think about, oh my God, what if this happened to me? Who would it be that would be possessed or infected by this alien intelligence? Mm-hmm. You don't know. Yeah. I love the experiment. The blood experiment, yeah. I would have to give The Thing a 5 out of 5. Oh, definitely. It's, it's gory. There's a little bit of comedy in it as
Mm-hmm.
well. And it just has that John Carpenter feel to it.
Oh, yeah.
And the music and everything. It has like a very Halloween 3 feel to it,
Mm-hmm.
to me. I don't know. Does
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, a little bit.
So?
A little
Not
bit.
much of what it's about, but, the
Yeah.
music and everything is very similar. But, yeah, I love, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, now we're on day 6, and this is a very odd film, but it's one of my favorites. It's one that I saw for the first time recently, and it's become easily one of my favorites. We have Sleepaway Camp 1983, also released as Nightmare Vacation.
Which I don't understand that.
Because they're not really on a vacation.
No, they aren't.
They're like, they're campers at a summer camp.
Yeah.
And it's, it's a slasher film. It was written and directed by Robert Hiltzik, and it's infamous for its twist ending, which I don't know, do you think, should we say it, or?
All I'll say is, the main person isn't who you think they are.
Yeah. Alright, spoiler alert. Please, can fast forward.
If you haven't seen this movie and you want to watch it without any spoilers, please skip ahead a few minutes.
Because we have to talk about this. This is something that has to be talked about.
Yeah.
Alright, Angela is really a dun 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 guy.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I feel bad for the character throughout the whole film. Like, she got picked on.
Yeah.
Bad.
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't know how exactly that even worked. Like, does she know? Like,
I'm sure
does she know what she is?
I'm sure she might be a little confused. Because, like, she went to live with her cousin after the death of her parents.
Yeah, and her sister.
And her aunt. And she said, we already have a boy in the house, so another one won't do. So
yeah, so they
made the little boy made the girl into a boy.
You mean boy into a girl?
I'm trying to, explain this the best way I can. It's kind of like, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain, but it's really weird.
It is.
But I felt bad for her.
Oh,
because, people were mean to her throughout the whole, while they were at camp.
Mm-hmm.
And the one camp instructor, well, first of all, I have to mention, why is the camp full of, pedophiles?
I don't know.
Two of the cooks said something at the beginning that kind of disturbed me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And, somebody said something vulgar about one of the children, and the other one's like, they're too young to know what's on your mind. I'm like...
And even
this is like a crooked camp.
Even the owner or, the head guy is trying to screw one of the teenagers.
It's like... Camp full of pedophiles. It's actually really messed up. It's a really crooked camp. I really don't know how they survived how many years that they did.
And the owner, basically trying to get Angela, basically allowing them to bully her and stopping her cousin from stopping them.
And it's just you really understand why she does what she
does.
Yeah. They're mean to her.
Oh, yeah.
You could tell, she was traumatized, and, she doesn't really know exactly who she is.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But, she wants...
It's a really weird concept, though.
If she wants to be a girl, that's fine. She wants to be a guy, but, she doesn't really know what she is.
Yeah.
And that's really, you can kind of see that in her persona.
Yeah, exactly.
I really want to see the second one. I've never seen it before, but I believe she does become a camp counselor.
Yeah, I think you told me about that.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the actress that plays her.
Mm-hmm.
She played in Hatchet 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Felissa
1,
Rose.
2. Oh, this is a big one. 3.
Where she's covering up, drawing up a penis on Andrew Young's... If you haven't seen Hatchet 4, you probably won't know what we're talking about.
Go watch it. It's hilarious.
But, very good actress. I follow her on Instagram. She's a model and everything. She looks exactly the same as she did when she was younger. She's just as awesome. And she's hilarious in Hatchet 4, like we said.
Mm-hmm.
But, what would you have to rate Sleepaway Camp?
I'll give it a 4 just because the one thing that I will, downgrade it for is just because, how does that whole concept even work? And, how did they keep that hidden for so long?
Well, I don't really know how they kept it hidden, but we should have known something was up at the very beginning when her aunt was like, I just filled out your physicals. Wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
Tell anybody where you got them. Well, they won't approve of that at all. I'm like, what in the
why are you
bitch, what you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, it makes sense now at the end.
Yeah, it does.
But you could tell, she was more flat-chested than, I'm not looking at
Yeah.
That was the whole thing in it that they were talking about. The girls were picking on her because she was flat-chested.
Yeah, because they didn't think she had hit puberty yet.
And, now we know, it's not that she didn't hit puberty, it's the fact that she doesn't really have anything.
To grow.
Unless, I believe in the second one, I think she's a little older, and so I think she's I don't know if she's fully transitioned.
Oh, she does transition?
I don't really know. I have to watch the second one, but I remember, my brother and sister watching it when I was a kid, and I would just kind of half pay attention because I was that was, right before I started watching horror films. And I just remember seeing, just I guess, a more teenage version of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a camp counselor, and she does stay the same way.
Oh, okay. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. But, it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I'm sorry, I would have to give it a 5.
Okay.
No, I would have to give it a 4 because, I don't know, the whole part with, the dude trying to molest, Angela, just, cringeworthy.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't downgrade the movie.
No.
But, that part, I will still stick as a 5, but that part really...
Yeah. Well, at least he got what he deserves.
He did get what he deserved. He didn't technically die, but he's going to have to live looking like a burn freak for the rest of his life because she spilled boiling hot water all over. Good job.
Well done.
That was awesome.
It would have been kind of interesting, not really interesting in a good way, but, it would have been kind of interesting if he had succeeded and he saw what was going on. And what his reaction would have been.
I'm glad they didn't do that because that would have been it would have been even more disturbing.
Yeah, really.
So I'm really glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad he just boiled alive. Well, he wasn't really boiled alive.
No.
He got scalded.
Yes.
Good for you, Angela. Alright, we are on another Stephen King film now. It's Children of the Corn.
Yep.
1984, and, it was actually based on a short story rather than a novel.
Mm.
I actually really want to read it. I'm wondering how, similar it is to the movie.
I mean, I would assume it's not... I mean, it's probably fairly similar, but they probably expanded a lot in the movie because it is just a short story.
That is true. It's set in Gatlin, Nebraska. And it's makes sense because it's very desolate, and the kids kill every adult apparently in Gatlin, and they basically take charge with the leader Isaac and worship a dark entity called He Who Walks Behind the Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually saw Children of the Corn when I was a kid, a little before I fully started to get into horror films, and it scared the shit out of me. I was afraid to go into cornfields, and it was actually ironic because we lived right next beside a cornfield.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah, we lived near a farm, and we had a cornfield right next to us, and I would always, when I played outside, I would stay very far away from the cornfield. Apparently, according to my mom, I did that because I was afraid of the Children of the Corn would come out.
It's kind of funny. There are two movies. This one came out in the 80s, and the other one came out in the 90s. That involve corn and people coming out of them, but in very opposite ways. Field of Dreams is the other one.
Oh. Alright.
Because you have ghosts coming out of the corn, but those are good ghosts. They're coming to play baseball.
Yeah, they're not gonna sacrifice you to he who walks behind
No.
the rose. You're not gonna have creepy Malachi
No.
trying to call you an outlander and tell you can't listen to music or play games because, apparently... I don't know. He was worse than Isaac.
Yeah.
He was way worse than Isaac, honestly. Who do you think was scarier?
Scarier purely on, the level of how they acted, I would probably say Malachi, but Isaac is just, that creepy little kid type.
He's got, an asshole kid
face,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's got that, I'm gonna be a little douchebag face.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, he's got these dark, evil eyes that just peers into your soul.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel bad for the two little kids in the film for, having to basically live 3 years, the way they did.
Isaac meets, oh, wow, what's his name? Damn it. Damien.
Isaac means Damien. That's another little kid that just has a, look, I'm a little douchebag face.
Could you just imagine those two meeting and just, squaring off?
Who do you think would win in a fight between Isaac and Damien?
Well, Damien, of course,
he's
because he's a damn Antichrist, but...
But he, like I said, he's got one of those, hey, look at me, I'm a little douchebag face.
Isaac would probably join him and be his little right-hand man minion.
Remember, though, Malachi apparently is a little, stronger than Isaac because he gangs up on Isaac. So
True.
He could probably, and then Damien would kick Malachi's ass.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The things we come up with. Weird little fan fictions.
Yep.
Yep, all the time. What would you rate Children of the Corn?
Definitely have to give it a 5.
I'd have to give it a 5, too. I'm going to read the short story. I would love to do an article comparing and contrasting the film with the short story at some point. We're now on day 7, and we have Friday the 13th, Part 4, 1984, directed by Joseph Zito, and it picks up right after where Part 3 leaves off, and it stars Corey Feldman and Crispin Glover, which are two pretty famous actors.
And for those of you, especially if you've watched any of Adam Green's movies like Hatchet or any of that,
or any of Joe
Lynch's movies, go find the copy of the DVD that has their commentary on it because it is hilarious.
It's the best film commentation you'll ever hear in your life.
I mean, whenever we watch Friday 4, we always have to watch it with their commentary because it's just hilarious.
And we have, a huge appreciation for Adam and Joe.
Oh, yeah.
They're my inspiration, so it's always good to hear their take on something, and I love hearing, their horror experiences and their stories and everything. It's really awesome.
And they're just
experience.
So, even though they're horror directors, they're so comedic that, they it's just hilarious hearing some of the commentary they do on it.
And one thing I really, really agree with them on is, I like comedy in my horror films.
Who hates laughing?
Yeah, exactly. They're these people who hate, comedy in their horror films are I hate laughing, fuck laughing, pretty much.
How? How do you hate laughing?
But I agree with them. I love comedy. That's why I love Hatchet so much. And some of the Wrong Turn films even have a little comedy into them. Joe Lynch did Wrong Turn 2, and, you could totally tell that he directed that one because, it's got some comedy on it, which is awesome. And that's why I love the two of them as
Oh,
much
yeah.
as I do. My dog wanted to get in on the action.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. But I love Friday the 13th Part 4, the story and everything. It's very interesting, and, you know, it's the beginning of the Tommy Jarvis saga.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love Part 5, too, because it had Tommy Jarvis in it, and I really like the actor who played him in Part 5, and, like, how messed up he became to be.
Even though it's not Jason.
It's not Jason, but you gotta look at it in another way.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Jarvis is a really cool character. He likes monster movies. He makes his own mask and everything. It's like Adam Green said in the commentary, it's like a little Tom Savini.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just really good at, you know, the art and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, mask making. And it was cool. And I believe it said that Tom Savini made those masks, right? Or designed
I think
them,
so. I
or
believe
worked
so.
on them. But yeah, big shout out to Tom Savini. He is great, you know, at makeup, great at everything. But I would have to rate it a 5 out of 5.
Definitely.
This is my favorite Friday the 13th film. Not just for the commentary, just, you know, because I love the story of the kids, like, you know, going to a cabin to party and Jason basically, like, stalking them and killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And that one guy in it, when he's watching the Stag films from the 30s or 20s, 20s or 30s, and he's like all high and drunk,
so
and he's
hilarious.
He's like laughing at like porn and from the 30s. I'm like, that nice comedic touch.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of comedy in this one.
If you like comedy in your horror, you'll love this one.
I think this is my favorite that has Jason in it.
I would have to say so.
Because I love the original, too.
I love the original, too, for sure. Like, that's my favorite, and then we have Part 4.
Yeah.
So I'd have to give it a 5.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And, you know, this next one kind of coincides with Friday the 13th because of Freddy vs. Jason, the film Freddy vs. Jason, but what we have next is Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, written and directed by horror legend, God rest his soul, Wes Craven. And stars Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, Johnny Depp in his first film debut, and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. And another horror film that's got comedy in it. I love this franchise.
Although this one, the original, doesn't have nearly as much comedy in it as some of the subsequent ones.
Not nearly as much. It's like how, like, it kind of starts off the series a lot, and it's like, it's scary because, you know, you have this dream demon, and, like, you always have your parents telling you when you're kids it's just a dream. You can't really get hurt in your dreams.
Not in this case.
You can really get hurt in your dreams on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, the only way to beat him is you have to take that fear away from him.
Yeah.
That you basically feel his fire when you show your fear.
Yeah. It's very interesting how they expand upon it in some of the later movies.
Especially with how they bring in Hypnosil, too.
Yeah. Well, and then also, like, in Freddy vs. Jason, when they say how, like, you know, he's not powerful enough because they don't fear him.
Exactly, and then that one guy kind of, like, brings the fear out, and he starts to get stronger the more people are afraid of him. You know, Jason's killing all these people and making it seem as if Freddy has come back.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of Johnny Depp in his first film debut? Like, how he was?
He was good.
And were you, like, kind of like, whoa, when we first watched together, and I was like, hey, look, that's Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked.
Because of Captain Jack Sparrow, and he's just, you know, he's a really good actor that way. He can play all kinds of parts.
Yeah.
He needs an award. He is awesome. But, I love Wes Craven. I love everything that he does. I've always been a Freddy Krueger fan. And this is one that I would have to give a really good rating. It breaks my scale because it's one of my favorite horror films.
I definitely have to give it a 5.
I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I did not like the remake.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see it, but you
No.
know about it.
Yeah.
And they changed the story a lot, which I did not like. But yeah, I loved it. I will have to give it a 5 as well. This whole entire week has been wonderful.
Oh yeah.
But for our trivia question, since we're tailing towards the end of the show.
Yeah, that was the last movie for week 3. So now it's time for the trivia answer. And which
you probably already know.
Once again, the question was, what horror novelist helped Evil Dead acquire a distributor? And Tori kind of mentioned it before I even answered before I even asked the question. And the answer is Stephen King. He was a big fan of the Evil Dead movie, and he was the one that helped them get a distributor to put it out there.
And that's actually something I just learned recently and I thought was absolutely fascinating. And, well, that's the end of our show. Please check out my website. It's bleedingmacabre.wixsite.com/bleedingmacabre. It's a horror blog. I, release weekly articles, not recently because I've been working a lot, but I'm working on...
You'll have a couple up for these last couple of weeks.
I'll have a couple
probably
up.
Today.
Follow me on Instagram at GraveyardShiftXX, and we will soon have a Facebook page where we will be promoting the podcast even more. And do you have anything you want to
add? Just for some of the other podcasts, be sure to check out the Kickoff. That'll be coming out tonight, so be sure to check that out if you're a football fan.
Alright, I'm Morticia.
And I'm Brandon Baller, and we will see you guys next time.
Happy Halloween!